planet of the sun. This is the meaning: it is favorable to the king. The noticeable change included in the paying of particular attention to eclipses, a tablet now in the British Museum listing computer-like columns of numbers served to predict lunar eclipses 50 years in advance. Modern studies have concluded that the change to the new style of topical astronomy took place in the 8th century BCE, when, after a period of mayhem and royal upheavals in Babylon and Assyria, the two lands' fates were placed in the new and strong royal hands. Tilgath-Pileser III. All right. Nabucodonosor, which means by Nabu protected. Nabu Esarhaddon then did turn southward, sweeping mightily through the lands of the eastern Mediterranean to Egypt. Significantly, he detoured away from the prize that Sennacherib failed to seize, Jerusalem. Significantly, too, that invasion of Egypt and the detour away from Jerusalem, as well as Assyria's own eventual fate, had been prophesied by Isaiah decades earlier, 10:24-32. And I just want to point out, it happens again and again that the Hebrew prophets tell the future, and then it comes true. This has been used again and again to strengthen these religions, to strengthen the religion of Yahweh. Now, later on in this chapter, stay with me, because we're going to talk about a time where the gods, he talks about a time where all of the gods leave the earth, and we're going to wonder why. It has to do with the arrival of this planet. But I just want to point out this pattern of prophesying and then it comes true. Prophesying and then it comes true. So you can either believe that it's because they're right, and it's because they are like, ooh, it's like witchcraft. They can tell the future, and their God is strong and their God is the true God. Or it could be that they are either making this come true later, which that's what it looks like that they're doing these days, or else they have the ability to see the future, which the Greys, which are very similar to the archangels, the Greys and the Archons have the ability to see the future because they are multidimensional. They are fourth dimensional and probably fifth dimensional. And the fourth dimensionals can see the future. So it's like no big deal for them to say, to have a prophet that just basically says what they want him to say, and then it comes true. Now, the other thing I want to say about this is, Herod's coin. Herod's coin is a really good example. It's in either my intro or my outro, where there's a finger pointing to a drawing of a coin, and there's a bell-shaped UFO on it with the serpents of the rainbow serpents coming off of it. That is a really good example, because Herod somehow knew that he should go and kill all the children, under the age of 4. Well, was Herod meditating? Did Herod, did a lady of the lake rise out of the lake and speak to Herod? Herod, go thou and kill thou some kids. Or, was Herod, did he get his information from Greys or dark, some other kind of dark star race, or even fallen Pleiadians? Who knows? Who knows what race he got it from? Well, I'm going to go with the star people theory, because he put the UFO on his coin. That's kind of a giveaway, isn't it? Okay, so this whole prophecy thing, we have to just start calling bullshit on this. Just because we can't see the future often doesn't mean they can't. All right. Oh, sorry, I'm all tangled up in... Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. So, try to stay with me, because you're going to like this eventually. I'm going to try to put a summary in the beginning of this video so you know what you're getting into here. Okay, here. Yeah, that's a note to myself. Okay, busy geopolitically as Esarhaddon was, he did not neglect the astronomical requirements at the time. With guidance from the gods Shamash and Adad, which are Anunnaki children of the original Anunnakis, He erected in Ashur, the city's Assyria's cult center, house of wisdom, and observatory, and he depicted the complete 12-member solar system, including Nibiru, on his monuments, figure 8-9. So that's the figure 8-9. Now, you know how I keep telling you that this is not a moon? Let's see if it'll let me zoom in. This is not a moon. This is a planet, I believe, of this, I think this, well, the winged thing here, and I've counted these. I'm going to show you in another video what that adds up to. This has to do with the car video I just did of the Bentiaga, because they still have the same symbol. This is the symbol of Nibiru. These guys today still worship Nibiru. Every car you look at, all you have to do is walk down a parking lot and see that the worship of Nibiru is extremely, like, rampant among car makers, at least. Now, and I tell you in the video about the car, the Bentiaga, more about the symbolism of the car and the parasitic nature of that, and, you know, this god of hosts type of thing. You know, well, the car basically is a host, and you are the possessor of the car. So, you know how symbolic these people are. They're going to put this on the car for the god of hosts, to worship the god of hosts, right? All right, this is not the moon. You know, this eventually turned into the eagle on our dollar bill. And I guess we have some other planets here. For some reason, all the planets are riding animals. If I could just go back in time, I'd be like, sorry, I'm new here. Can someone explain the animals here? What's the deal? Are these orbits? Now, the other question I have, is he drinking out of a chalice? Because you know how I love my chalice symbolism. And I love these beards too. These are supposedly, you know, he has a very African nose here, but some of the other ones look like they're very Aryan. I think they're supposed to be Aryan, but he's drawn here very African. Maybe he did this to, like, you know, so that the people actually, but these are written for the elite, by the elite. He's got his watch here. They could tell time. You know, they could probably see in the future. Well, anyway, it's just a fashion aside. Like, how is this beard? I'd like to know how they did their beard. I think they did like dread. What's that called? Cornrows, maybe something like that. It's very pretty. Okay. Well, okay, so, oh yeah, so he shows Nibiru on his monuments and the 12-member solar system. Now, this chapter is going to get to all of the trouble that the academics had, because all of the academics had been taught wrong, that they're, according to the academics, they only knew about 7 planets, and then so they thought that people more primitive to them than would only know about 7 planets. So they basically wasted 200 years misinterpreting these texts because they couldn't let go of their idea of only 7 planets. So there's just an idea of, like, you know, squirrel chasing its own tail idea of the academics. It's ridiculous how much time is wasted. People dedicated their whole lives to trying to figure out, these astrological charts of the Sumerians, but they basically wasted their whole life doing it based on some idea that the Sumerians were stupider than the people in the 1800s. Can you imagine wasting your whole life on that? All right. Okay. Leading to a more lavish sacred precinct was a new monumental gate built according to cylinder seal depictions, these cylinder seal depictions, by the way, are all in museums. And these languages are not taught in public schools, in case you haven't noticed. So these very important languages that are going to give you first-person access to the most important and accurate information, all of these, you basically have to study these languages by yourself. They don't teach these in schools, and they keep these things in museums. And that's how they keep it for themselves and not for you. but they give you the Bible, and then, you read the Bible and you use the Bible to hate people with, especially, especially what they do. And they did this by design. I can't believe that people can't figure this out. I mean, although I guess I didn't figure it out myself for a long time. So it seems obvious now, but I guess it's not because I didn't figure it out either. But people use the Bible to hate astrology. They use the Bible to hate basically the Freemasons. And I'm not saying that we should love the Freemasons. What I'm saying is, why did the Freemasons write the Bible to teach you to hate astrology and true wisdom? Was it because they didn't want you to study this true stuff? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why they taught you to hate it. You really have to pull back this curtain and take a look, guys. You have to look when you read something like the newspaper or the Bible or the, even a children's show, anything that you see, or even a radio show that you listen to, or an advertisement, you need to think, what do they want me to think? Well, in the Bible, they want you to be afraid of sorcerers, for one thing. People who who make things appear out of thin air, like say Joshua. No one is calling him a sorcerer. However, they teach you to fear witchcraft and sorcery. And I'm not saying, I think witches are freaky people myself too. I mean, if there's witches in my group listening, I'm sorry. I guess I know that there's a wide spectrum of people, but most of you guys kind of scare me. So I'm just going to try to, work with my own type of prejudices that I have about that. I guess any club scares me. If you're in any club, doesn't matter what religion it is, as long as it's a club, it kind of scares me. Well, what I want to say is the Bible teaches you to fear and demonize astrology. It teaches you to fear and demonize having the ability to collapse the quantum wave the way that you think it should be collapsed. And by doing that, you basically take out your vote of the quantum wave, and then they do all the voting. And they have to amplify their vote using meridians and ley lines and buildings and chants and prayers and dancing around in fish hats, whatever they do. Whatever they do, their rituals, and they probably do sacrifice children. I don't know. I don't want to think about that. Whatever they're doing, they're trying to collapse the wave. And meanwhile, they're teaching you that you just need to cower in guilt because you guys you are sinners. Like the days of Noah, all those people were sinners because they lived in the kingdom of sin, which was this God who was nice to the people, and he was a rebel against Enlil. Rebels of Enlil. You know who plays Enlil in major movies? Darth Vader. That guy is Enlil, and all the rebels, according to him, are sinners. They're all bad, according to him, because they're against him. Okay, I know I have gotten way off track, but what I'm trying to do is unplug, and I'm trying to give you a clue to recognize the brainwashing. So if the Bible is teaching you, first of all, to hate and fear, people who, are basically working towards soul perfection, they're working on themselves, then they teach you to hate and fear that because they're trying to be like God, or they're trying to turn into gods. Hate and fear that. Well, you have to think, okay, wait a minute, who wrote this document? The Vatican did. What are they doing themselves? They are also doing these same things that they tell you not to do. Why would they do something themselves and tell you not to do it? Because they don't want you to be powerful. So Joshua walked on water, according to the story, made fishes and loaves, healed the blind, raised people from the dead. And he told you that you can do these things and more. Say to the mountain, move. And yet, any Christian that if you say something like, gosh, this morning we were a little low on fishes and loaves, so I just prayed and I just made some more. Those people are going to back away from you, and they're never going to speak to you again, because they think you're a witch or a sorcerer because of this programming. What would happen if everybody could make their own fishes and loaves? What would happen if everybody could make their own oil or gold or clothes or whatever you need? Would maybe the world religion of money would maybe like cease to exist, right? We could have spent the last 2,000 years figuring out how to do all this stuff by ourselves. But instead, everybody's too afraid because they don't want to, get burned at the stake. Because the Vatican burns witches at the stake. Meanwhile, I don't know. Do you see the hypocrisy? I'm sure you see the hypocrisy by now. Okay, that is not the moon. All right, here we go. Emulate. Okay, so this is important. This whole thing is important about the return of this planet. Still trying to figure out a lot of things about this, though. Okay, so leading to a more lavish sacred precinct was a new monumental gate built according to the cylinder seal depictions to emulate Anu's gateway on Nibiru, figure 90. This is the, I think, if this isn't the Ishtarinana gate, it's something very similar. It's a clue to what the return expectations in Assyria were. All those religious political moves suggest that Assyrians made sure to touch all the bases as far as the gods were concerned, and so by the 7th century BCE, sorry, I'm not aiming the camera, Assyria was ready for the anticipated return of the planet of the gods. Discovered text, including letters to the kings by their chief astronomers, reveal anticipation of an idyllic utopian time. When Nibiru will culminate, the lands will dwell securely, hostile kings will be at peace, the gods will receive prayers and hear supplications. When the planet of the throne of heaven will grow brighter, there will be floods and rains. When Nibiru attains its perigee, the gods will give peace and troubles will be cleared up, complications will be unraveled. Clearly, the expectation of a planet that will appear, rise in the skies, grow brighter, and at its perigee, at the crossing, become Nibiru, the planet of the crossing, the cross planet. This is why this is why they wear crosses, and this is why you wear crosses, if you're Christian. And as the gateway and the other construction indicated, the returning planet, a repeat of the previous visit to Earth by Anu, was expected. They were expecting Anu to come back. That's the father of Enki and Enlil. That's the grandfather of everybody. And there's a whole story about how he got to be king of Nibiru. And it kind of reminds you of the Titans. I think the Greeks had that story. It was now up to the astronomer priests to watch the heavens for that planetary appearance, but where were they to look in the celestial expanse, and how were they to recognize the planet when still in the distant skies? The next king, Ashurbanipal, 668 to 630 BCE, came up with a solution. Historians consider Ashurbanipal to have been the most scholarly of Assyrian kings, for he had learned other languages besides Akkadian, including Sumerian, and claimed that he could read the writings even before the flood. He also boasted he learned the secret signs of heaven and earth and studied the heavens with the masters of divination. Some modern researchers also consider him to have been the first archaeologist, for he systematically collected tablets from sites that were already ancient in his time, like Nippur, Uruk, and Sippar, and what used to be Sumer. He also sent specialized teams to sort out and loot such tablets from the capitals that the Assyrians overran. Kind of reminds you of Nazis, right? Not to cast, Ashurbanipal in that category, but just that some people know how to get the information and some people just believe whatever they're told, basically. The tablets ended up in a famed library where teams of scribes studied, translated, and copied chosen texts from the previous millennia. A visitor to the Museum of the Ancient Near East in Istanbul can see a display of such tablets. I think this area is under attack, and they're destroying documents and things now. So, where's the Nazis when you need them? You need the Nazis to go in and save it all and put it in a museum somewhere. All right, not that I'm on the side of Nazis, but you see how everybody plays a role. With each shelf headed by a catalog tablet that lists all the texts on the shelf. While the subjects in the accumulated tablets covered in a wide range, what was found indicates the particular attention given to celestial information. Among the purely astronomical texts, there were tablets that belonged to the series called the Day of Bel, the Day of the Lord, In addition, epic tales and histories pertaining to the gods coming and going were deemed important, especially if they shed light on Nibiru's passages. Enuma Elish, the epic of creation, told how an invading planet joined the solar system to become Nibiru, was copied, translated, and recopied. So were the texts dealing with the Great Flood, such as the Atrahasis epic and the Epic of Gilgamesh. While they all seem to legitimately be part of accumulating knowledge in a royal library, it so happens they all dealt with the instances of Nibiru's appearance in the past, and thus with its next appearance. I did a quick, just a gematria of Bel. It's Ra. The day of Bel is the day of the Lord. So this chapter also talks about how when we get into where the scriptures are, the Lord returns, the day of the Lord, the day this of, they're talking about the Lord is the planet. And the reason why the Lord is the planet is because Marduk renamed the planet Nibiru after himself. And then Marduk started to create this idea of that the planet was the Lord and that he was not only a person, a Nephilim on the earth, but he was also the planet. So that's why when they speak of the day of the Lord, they're talking about the day of the planet, when the planet returns. Right, here we are. Okay. Among the purely astronomical... Did I read that? Okay. Among the purely astronomical texts translated and undoubtedly carefully studied were guidelines for observing Nibiru's arrival and for recognizing it on its appearance. The Babylonian text retained the original Sumerian terminology stated, this is a Babylonian text that retained the original Sumerian terminology. This is not Vatican, so you're not supposed to read this. Planet of the god Marduk, upon its appearance, Shulpei, rising 30 degrees, Sagmaneg, when it stands in the middle of the sky, Nibiru. While the first named planet, Shulpei, is deemed to be Jupiter but could be Saturn, and the next one's name is Sagmaneg, which could be a variant for Jupiter. Now all this confusion about the planets is due to the 200 years that they wasted arguing about whether these people were dumber than the ones, you know, they spent 200 years or so, you know, at least 100 years or I don't know, decades, I don't know how much time they spent, thinking that the Sumerians were talking about 7 planets when in fact they were talking about 12. And not only that, it's really retarded because in their drawings they show 12 planets, but still the academics persisted in only studying 7. And that's why this next chapter I'm going to read to you is academic distortion that Zacharia Sitchen brings forward. They know, someone knows which planet is which. Probably we could look at it and figure it out ourselves. But here we have to read a chapter about how they don't know. They don't know which one is which, because if you knew which one was which, you could tell from the text and look up in the sky with your telescope, and you could see when things are passing other things, and then you could tell exactly when the planet's supposed to be here. I'll just read you this chapter so that you can see this ridiculous academic distortion, rendered by some to be Mercury, as if it was confusing. Like, okay, the ancient Sumerians have this all figured out. They know all the planets. But here in the 1800s, they're so dumb they can't even interpret the text. And still, I don't know when this was published, we still don't know. Because, you know, it's basically like a moron parade over here. And we still don't know what planets they're talking about. I mean, I want to take a flip-flop and start hitting some people with this. It, you know, like your flip-flop that you wear in the summertime. Makes a lot of sound, doesn't hurt very much. Because this is ridiculous. They just say this with a straight face. They can't figure this out. Well, give it to me. I will figure it out. I'm sure it can't be this hard. A similar text from Nippur rendering the Sumerian planetary names as Amun-Pudu and Sog-Magar suggests that the arrival of Nibiru will be announced by the planet Saturn after rising 30 degrees will be near Jupiter. Well, of course, we don't know which one's Jupiter and which one's Saturn because they just mixed up all the names. Other texts, example, a tablet known as K3124, states that after passing Shulpei and Sog-Magar, which I believe means Saturn and Jupiter, so we're hopefully, you know, maybe we could take his word for it, Planet Marduk will enter the sun. That is, it will reach perigee closest to the sun and then will become Nibiru. because it crosses, basically. That's a crossing point. Other texts provide clearer clues in regard to Nibiru's path, as well as the time frame for its appearance. Now, today is 9/16/2015, and I didn't check the news. I don't know if anything really scary happened yesterday. But we have a few days until 9/23, and one of the most, there's two major schools of thought for why we are getting so much disaster coding around this coming date. One of them is the return of this planet. The other one is the return is a comet that they're hiding from us. Now, on YouTube, they have released. There's been some leaks, quotation marks, some leaks from Homeland Security people saying that there's a comet. So you could believe that. I don't know. I don't know anybody personally, and I think the only way to tell whether that's true or not is like really by using a pendulum or something like that, or try to divine whether that's true or not. The other, so there could be a real comet, there could be a fake comet, a nuclear fake comet, which may or may not materialize because sometimes their plans go south when they start using nukes. Because some people believe that nukes are just fake, and also that other people believe that star people are not allowing the use of nukes anymore. So it depends on what you think. But here, just, okay, sorry, stammering. The French Prime Minister, can't remember his name. I think it was May 12th, 2013. No, is that right? No. Yes. No. Okay, 2014, I think. Okay, sorry, I can't pull up that date. Well, anyway, he predicted 500 days until climate chaos. And he said it 3 times. Now, in all movies, in that one speech, he said the same phrasing 3 times. Now, in all movies, Simpsons, any songs, of course, anything that is repeated 3 times. This happens in J.K. Rowling, in the Harry Potter, all the time, where one character will say it, another character will repeat it, and another character will say it again. That is a coded statement, and that means that you have been told 3 times, just like the cock will crow 3 times, something like that. You will deny me 3 times, those type of ideas. Well, the distance between 500 days from the day that he gave that speech goes to 9/23, and most people know that by now. So he might be referring to some kind of nuclear bomb they're going to set off, an actual comet, or possibly this planet. Now, I've been looking at the times here, trying to figure out if this is pointing at our date or not, at our year even. It's really hard to figure out. I feel like I have to read the rest of this book. Here's the rest of the book. I don't even know if I'm going to get it if I read the rest of the book, because they are obscuring the date for some reason. Well, anyway, I don't know. It doesn't say anything about a returning planet in the Bible, but it does have a lot of prophecy about things that sound like returning planets. Because if a planet does return, one of the things it does is it goes past the Kepler belt and it starts knocking stuff loose in the belt, and all that stuff starts flying around in all the different directions, and we have seen increased meteorites, and that would also, for one thing, make finding comets pretty hard to do, because there's basically would be a lot of chaotic movement within the Kepler belt. You see what I'm saying? And it's not that far away. I just throw that out there. All right, so I'm going to make a part 2 here. I think this has gotten really long. Next, this section I'm going to read is going to have to do with astronomers wasting time with assumptions that the primitive people were dumber than them. Then we're going to look at some of these texts having to do with the ancient Sumerian drawings, the orbit of Nibiru, Psalm 17, which states, "In Jupiter thy face be seen." Also from the prophet Amos. We have a lot of scripture coming up. We have, I did decodes on the word sovereign and reign. So we're going to talk about King Nebuchadnezzar. We're going to talk about some important history having to do with Jerusalem. This is one of their ziggurats. This could be referring. It doesn't actually say which exact one this is, but there's one that looks just like this in ancient Babylon on the cheek of Isis over there. Then I did decode Babylon, baby, and Lun. Lun as in London. I decoded return, wing to disc. Here is the Ishtar Gate. It has a unicorn on it, and it has the Splendor Serpent, which we found in Paris. Please see my video on that. We're going to decode, I did a quick decode on Jerusalem. We're going to read Ezekiel 5:5, Jeremiah 52. And we're going to look at this stele, which this is actually a ram. And this is what people were going to say, like, oh, that's the man in the moon. This is not the moon. These gods, they're not going to bother themselves with a lowly, thing like our moon. We don't even know if the moon is real. We don't actually know if anything's real. Okay, these shards, I'm not going to probably get all to this in part 2, but I just want to show you where we're going. The reason why I'm taking the time to film this is because I think that this is important. I think it's actually urgently important, and so that's why I'm going to take the time to show this to you. So hopefully you stay tuned for part 2. I'll try to keep my soapboxes to a minimum so we can keep moving. However, with our new audience, I feel like we do have to delve back in that from time to time. So I hope the audience that has been with me for a long time, I hope you will forgive and understand that so that we can bring more lovies along. All right, love you guys. Let's just zoom in on this for our outro. Look, we have 12 planets.
Hi guys, it's Dandelion here. So I just wanted to put an outro on this saying that I'm working on part 3 right now, and I'm going to try to summarize all this faster because now that I realize that there was a double eclipse, we do have an unexpected eclipse to look at. I'm going to get through this chapter faster. However, when I do the numbers according to this chapter, the dates of the years do not line up with our current year. Looks like it's 1,000 years off to me. So I'd like to bring you the numbers, see what you think, because I'm not going to say that I'm an expert at numbers. And then you can decide whether we're talking about a comet or the return of a planet, or whether this has anything to do with the unexpected eclipses that were predicted in the scriptures and things like that in these ancient tablets. All right, here comes part 3. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.